Sometimes we get so wrapped up in our own fantasies that we don't even stop to evaluate the situation, let alone ourselves in it. It's true, and my ex-girlfriend was no exception. She got carried away by flattery and overestimated her own worth. Well, she'll probably be paying for it for the rest of her life. I first met Amelia back when I was in college. We hit it off, and we kept seeing each other until I graduated. Afterward, we decided to take the plunge and move in together. She landed a job at a big mall selling perfumes, and I, on the other hand, was trying to get something in my field. I studied programming, but the first couple of years were a bit of a struggle. I hopped from one office to another, took a job, worked there for a month or two, then left. The pay was low, especially during probation periods where I only got half the salary, but it was enough to cover the rent and buy groceries. Then things started to shift between me and Amelia. She got a new coworker who quickly became a close friend. This girl lived off her boyfriends, always wore expensive clothes, and had all sorts of enhancements done. And of course, she started teaching Amelia how to level up. She even came over to our place a couple of times. Suddenly, Amelia started saying things like, "I'm 24 now, and you still haven't made me rich. No fur coats, no fancy vacations, no diamonds on my fingers," even though she barely contributed anything to the household. I was still trying to make her happy, but it was becoming harder. At some point, Amelia decided that she needed a driver's license. I found the money for it. And right after that, she started asking for a car. Not just any car. Oh no, it had to be the latest model, top end, with all the options, because, apparently, the basic version was too simple. At first, I tried to meet her requirements, but I soon realized that no matter what I did, but it would never be enough. It was like Hydra. Every time I gave up, two more demands arose in his place. So, after I bought her a fur coat, she started asking for matching boots and a designer handbag. Look, I get it. A girl wants to look good, but when you already have 20 pairs of almost identical sandals and still want more, that's just a bit much. And sure, having a car is convenient, but you don't need one right away, especially when you're still figuring things out. The tension between us just kept growing because of her endless demands. Things got worse after she started hanging out with that new friend of hers. I simply couldn't keep up with the lifestyle she seemed to expect. We argued a lot. I was in the middle of switching jobs yet again when an amazing opportunity opened up at a great company, and I decided I was going to give it my all. The selection process was intense. There were multiple rounds of interviews, tests, and even a theoretical exam. For a whole week, I was on edge, constantly preparing, rereading materials, and calling up old classmates for advice. I really needed someone to have my back, to make me feel like I wasn't in this alone. I wanted her to bring me a plate of food, or at least make sure we had coffee in the house. But instead, one day, she told me that we were like strangers, that she didn't love me anymore, and that she wanted to break up. It stung, but honestly, the voice in my head was telling me that this relationship was toxic. It was either I gave in to her every whim, or I dealt with her friend's advice, or I just listened to her constantly telling me I wasn't good enough. So I helped her pack her things, called a cab, and within minutes, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was like I could finally focus on the interview without any distractions. Little did I know, she had already moved on to someone else. Luckily, I got the job. It wasn't easy. Countless hours of preparation, sleepless nights, and grabbing meals on the go. But when I got the offer, I was over the moon. Things at work went great. I was quickly noticed, and just 6 months later, I got a small promotion. To celebrate, I decided to keep it low-key and professional. During lunch, I grabbed some cakes and fruits, and we decided to stay an extra hour after work to relax. And who did I spot in the store? Amelia's colleague with the inflated lips. I couldn't believe it. I didn't expect her to be in a regular supermarket, of all places. We exchanged the usual pleasantries, asking how things were going. I asked about Amelia, half hoping for a neutral, everything's fine kind of answer. But no, her need to spill everything was unstoppable, and she was eager to unload a whole truckload of details on me. Of course, it was the whole range, from dirt to fairy tales, and back again. In just 6 months after our breakup, Amelia had already found herself a new airfield. One day, a charming guy in his mid-30s walked into the store where she worked. He was buying perfume, throwing compliments her way as he made his selection. Amelia, of course, was all smiles, eager to help and basking in the attention. The very next day, the guy came back, asking her to pick out a perfume for his dad's birthday. He mentioned how impressed he was with her professionalism and said he'd love to take her out for coffee. Within a couple of days, they were dining at a restaurant, and as you'd expect, they got closer by the day. Amelia couldn't wait to tell her colleague every little detail. A couple of weeks later, the guy, Owen, told her that her job wasn't exactly fit for a queen and that she deserved something more prestigious. Owen ran a big accounting firm, and well, he offered Amelia a job. It was at this point that she ended things with me and set off to chase her new life. Of course, she and her colleague kept in close touch, meeting up at cafes and chatting about their shared passion for accounting. Amelia didn't have any formal education in that field, but no worries, Owen had that covered. He bought her fake credentials, took her to some lectures, and told her to watch a few presentations online to get the basics. Before long, Amelia had herself a crash course in how to fake it till you make it. Owen, naturally, kept the flattery coming. He told her no one else could see a gem like her. Soon enough, he started showering her with gifts, luxury jewelry, a brand new car, you name it. He swore his undying love and promised her the world. A few months later, he offered her a promotion to director of the company. Amelia was, unsurprisingly, over the moon. She could barely hide her excitement. She took her old colleagues out to expensive restaurants, flaunted the rings and bracelets he'd given her, and talked about her upcoming shopping sprees. She was practically glowing with power, even ordering a gold-plated pen to sign documents. Then, one day, Owen told her he'd have to leave for a few days, but when he came back, they'd be planning their wedding. Amelia said goodbye to her man on Saturday, but come Monday, things took a nasty turn. Suit-wearing professionals with huge folders showed up at the company. It was a serious audit. The newly minted director had no clue what was going on. She was still learning the ropes, and when the inspectors started going through the company's paperwork, it didn't take long to uncover some serious discrepancies. Of course, Amelia couldn't explain any of it. She tried calling Owen, but his number was disconnected. It didn't take long for the company to start unraveling. Amelia, the so-called director, was accused of large-scale fraud, illegally transferring funds, falsifying documents, and moving money to non-existent companies, among other things. They confiscated everything they could: the office building, the equipment, even her car and jewelry. The same stuff I'd once bought her. And of course, the company faced huge fines for the fraud and illegal transactions. Owen? He was nowhere to be found. When the police finally tracked him down, he played the innocent card, claiming he barely knew Amelia and hadn't worked at the company for ages. In fact, he'd been preparing for this very moment a whole time. He had shifted the money to himself in anticipation of the audit, leaving Amelia holding the bag. So much for that brilliant mind of hers. Now my ex will probably spend the rest of her life trying to pay off those fines, unless, of course, she stumbles upon another rich fool.